Welcome everyone, this is PSY 4403 Biological Cytology for Winter Intersession 2022. My name is Michael Nadorf. I'm an Associate Professor of Cytology here at MSU, and I also direct our Clinical Cytology PhD program. So today my goal is to give you an overview of what to expect in the course this intersession. We'll go over the syllabus briefly and just some do's and don'ts, and just to help orient you to me and the class and what to expect. So with that, our goals are to introduce you to me, introduce you to biological cytology, talk about why it's important, and we'll also review the syllabus and provide an overview of the class. So for me, I received my bachelor's degree from the University of Notre Dame. And I studied psychology and computer applications. So I was a double major with those two. I started out pre-med initially, but I quickly found that psychology was really where my passion lied, so I moved over there. But while I was at Notre Dame, I did take a physiological psychology course, which is a very similar course to this. And there it actually wasn't required. Here it's required in part of the curriculum. There it was not, and I really think it should be. But I took it because I knew that without having an understanding of the biological side of things, you really can't understand the psychological. And also I knew it would be very helpful for graduate school because I knew I wanted to go on and get my PhD and become a psychologist. I received my master's and PhD from West Virginia University in clinical psychology. And there, I had to take a required class in biological psychology, so that's part of the APA curriculum, for a doctoral study. But I also took an elective on psychopharmacology, and I'm happy to give you, if you want to talk nerd, we can get into nerdy talk about drugs. It's cool. There's pharmacokinetics, pharmacodynamics. There's so much to understand there and how these drugs work. So I got some extra training on psychopharmacology. I also had clinical experiences that were biologically oriented. I worked in an insomnia clinic for 2 years, and actually I still practice in behavioral sleep medicine. I'm actually the president-elect of Society of Behavioral Sleep Medicine, so I'm still involved with aspects of medicine. I also worked in a psychiatric nursing home for a year and at the WVU Cancer Center in the bone marrow transplant unit for a year. So while in grad school, I got a lot of training in healthcare facilities. Then my clinical internship was at Baylor College of Medicine, specifically in the geriatric mental health care and research track. So there, and I should explain, an internship for clinical psychology is like our version of a residency. So I spent a year there, and I worked both at Baylor College of Medicine and also at the Michael E. DeBakey VA Medical Center in Houston. With this, there's a 6-week didactic series on psychopharmacology where the clinical psych interns actually did it alongside the psychiatry residents. So it's a really nice opportunity to learn the same things that the medical doctors were learning and to learn how psychologists interplay and can fit into the overall treatment team. It's also where I learned a lot about biology and psychology and how they interplay. So it was an awesome training experience. So how to reach me, the best way is email, and you have my email here. I'm happy to set up meetings with you. I like to interact with students. So with it, don't hesitate to email me if you have questions, if you'd like to meet. The only gotcha that I'll warn you about ahead of time is I'm going to be traveling some December 29th through the 7th of January. So with it, I should still have access that whole time, but I might be a little slower. And if I'm ever slower to the point that it affects you, we will make an accountant for it. Like, we will fix it. The main thing is talk to me if you're having trouble. Let's see if we can fix it, because most things can be fixed. So why is biological psychology important? Well, I believe mental and physical health really can't be separated. And, I always think back to my experience in the cancer unit where I had a patient who had been medically cleared for treatment. He was depressed, and they said there wasn't a biological reason behind it, but we were trying to have him engage in activities that he enjoyed, and we just couldn't do it. There's no motivation. We had no, weren't making any progress. Lo and behold, he actually, unbeknownst to the treatment team at the time, had a brain tumor right in the areas that are linked to motivation. And so it quickly became obvious why we didn't have much success with treating him. But it helps drive home why it's important, why we need to know about biology and psychology. These things, you can't have one and not the other because they do intermix so much. Also, roughly half of all applied psychologists work in medical environments, which may surprise you. The VA hospital system is actually the largest employer of psychologists in the US. It's also very common that psychologists are getting hired in primary care, and behavioral sleep medicine, where I practice, is growing exponentially. There's tons of opportunities for people that are doing sleep medicine and behavioral sleep medicine. So a lot of the career paths that you may take are going to take you down medical careers. And with that, it's important to understand biology and its effects. So, as I was hinting at, it's impossible, I believe, to be competent as a psychologist without a strong understanding of biological psychology. And this is really vital for a lot of the jobs that you're going to want to get. It's okay to be nervous. This is a very challenging course, and it's one that I know that a lot of people struggle with. But with that, it's also a very doable class. So it's important that you do a couple things. First of all, I really encourage you don't get behind. Getting behind will definitely bite you in the behind. So be careful with that. Also, talk to me. If you're having trouble, talk to me. Let's see what we can do. See if I can help figure out how to help you. So don't be afraid to reach out. I'm going to keep reiterating that. Don't be afraid to reach out. I have high expectations, but also there are a lot of supports, and please use me as one of the supports. My number one piece of advice is read and watch the videos. I think both of those are really important, especially the reading, and it's a big textbook. I know it's over break. It's going to help you immensely if you do the reading. The other thing is, with this, it's going to be a little bit of a growing curve for both of us. This is the first time I've actually taught this class online. I've taught it hybrid before, and I've taught it flipped. I haven't taught it fully online. So with it, there are going to be some things that we have to work out. It's also the first time I'm using some of the test questions that we're using. Some of them aren't going to be good. With that, that's okay. We'll work through it. Don't stress it. We'll figure it out. So keep that in mind. If in doubt, email me. Let's talk about it. And I'll talk more about this with the quizzes, but just content is really important. This is the textbook. It's the 9th edition of the Breed Love book. So you'll want to be sure that you have this. There are 4 exams over the course of the semester. So there are 50 multiple choice questions, 100 points each. And I'll show you this on the actual syllabus here in a second. There's also one comprehensive final that's 100 points. Now the thing is, your lowest exam grade is dropped. So technically, if you're happy with your scores after 4 exams, you don't have to take the final. But also, unless you have an A, there's no reason not to take the final because your lowest grade is dropped. So even if it's your worst test, no harm, no foul. It can only help you. So the grading scale, because there are 4 exams, 1 final, all 100 points, but we dropped 1 exam, everything's out of 400 points possible, as you see here. One of the things I'll mention too about the exams. So I do have some new test questions in there, and while the exam is closed book and closed notes, what I'd encourage you to do is go ahead and have a piece of paper next to you so you can quickly write down any questions that you don't you think there's an issue with, or just write down a little bit about the question, just enough that you can email me after and I can find it and actually look to see what's going on. Like if you think there are two right answers or that sort of thing. And all of that will fit. What will happen after the exam is a couple things. First of all, I will curve all the exams so that the top score in the class is 100. So there's a curve in there that you'll see after everyone's taken it. But the other thing is I'm going to look at all the analytics and see what items were problematic for people. And if there are problematic items, I'll fix them. So you'll likely see that your grade actually improves after you take the exam once they've had a chance to do those things. All the lecture slides should be up on Canvas already, so check those out. All the lectures should also be there. If you're missing anything, let me know. Not all of the chapters have four lectures. Some only have 2. And I made them into smaller pieces so that it's a little easier to just watch one here or there as you're able. If there's something that's not covered by me or you have questions, please ask about it before you take the exam. I can help before the exam, but I'm limited in what I can do after. So be in touch early and often. Ask what you need to know. Help me help you. Here's my email again, so you know how to email me. And again, I really don't mind the reach out, so please do that. With that, let me roll over to this syllabus here. So this I'm going to email you, and it will also be on Canvas. It should already be up. You have the grading scale we talked about, nothing new there. Same things I told you. So don't use text notes, friends, like honor codes in effect. We do use Lockdown Browser, but I'm also not one that's going to make you use one of those services where they stare at you with a webcam. That just seems cruel and unusual to me. A lot of this is pretty basic, and so a couple things I wanted to point out here. So there are actual exam days where you are to take these. I understand life happens. It's okay. For these two, there's really no wiggle, and you have to take these before 9 p.m. on the 13th. For the rest of these, if you look, the due date in Canvas is different than when they actually are no longer accessible. If something happens and you have to take this the next day for any of chapters 1 through 3, that's okay. So just be aware that there is a little bit of wiggle because life happens. I would rather you take it the next day than take it at midnight and do really poorly. So just be aware that that wiggle room exists for these first 3, but not for exams 4 or the final, just because we're right up against the deadline. Also, for these exams, all of them have an hour time limit, except for the final that will have a 3-hour time limit. So if you get accommodations with extra time, please reach out to me, and I can get those set up in Canvas quickly. But I think that's all you need to know. Again, I will shoot all this information out to you. I look forward to having you in the class, and please let me know how I can be helpful.